Greetings, my friends. Welcome to the next episode of the Mint Mob Podcast. Jason here, joined by my buddy Alex, who is finally back from his honeymoon. And we're going to jump into what's going on in the world of NFTs, artwork, collectibles, markets, and all the rest of it. But first, let's check in with the newlywed. How's it going, buddy?
Oh man, I did that breathing. We need to cut here and then start all over again.
Not going to happen, man.
Yeah, great to be back, of course. Great to be back. And I was in Spain for a week. And I was going to say lived La Dolce Vita, but that's Italy, of course. It was beautiful. Very great weather. I was trying to spot Maria, but I didn't see her, unfortunately. I'm not even sure where she lives. But now I'm back in good old cold Germany, and happy to be back in the GoodFellas, of course, because it's been a while. It's always like I told that on Spaces already. When I'm not on Spaces and I have to listen to the recording, I always feel like I'm left out, and people are like, I'm left behind or something. So I'm happy to be back there as well, and of course getting back on track with the podcast. It's been a while since we recorded an episode for obvious reasons, right? Like you mentioned it, I was on vacation, then we had my wedding, you had your little, have you ever spoken about the Murph you did? I'm not sure if we did, but you had your little challenge there. Did you finish successful? I think you have to make like how many push-ups and pull-ups? Isn't it like 100 or something, and run a lot?
The workout is a mile run, then 100 pull-ups.
A mile, okay.
200 push-ups, 300 squats, and then another mile run. And if you do it as prescribed, you wear a 20-pound weighted vest while you do all that.
Okay. And you do it in that order, like you have to do the push-ups first, and like the squats are like the final one?
You can do the reps in the middle between the miles. You can do those in any order that you want. Doesn't really matter. What most people do is they break it up into 20 rounds of 5, 10, 15. So 5 pull-ups, 10 push-ups, 15 squats, and just repeat that 20 times, and that gets you to where you need to go.
Oh, okay. Crazy, man. And how long does it take?
It takes around an hour, for the average person. For the average, I wouldn't say average person. The average person probably couldn't do it, but the average athlete. But I mean, there are people who do it way faster in half the time, like 30 minutes or less. There's some pretty insane athletes in the world who really kill it. Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Sounds like something I could do. Sign me up next time. I'll be there.
Let's go. I have the guest room. The guest room is waiting on you. Book your ticket now, and you'll get the best price.
You should have told me you got a guest room before I went to the States last time.
I did tell you
that opportunity.
You came within like 2 hours of my house and then didn't show up, like a baby. That's too hot for me. What are you talking about? Too hot? It's the desert, man. What do you expect?
Those accusations, man.
They're not accusations.
All right.
They'll hold up in court.
All right. Before we jump into what's been going on in the GoodFellas world, let's start with crypto. It's been a while we spoke about crypto, but I've seen a little relief rally, and it looks like there's no better time to jump into crypto again. I think the reason for that little relief today was a deal between Iran. What the fuck? I'm confusing them. Iran, right? And the United States. Looks like they've come to an agreement, and we've seen markets react, and obviously pretty good. I'm not sure if Bitcoin hit the bottom or not, but we've seen a little change. I think it went from 60 to 66 or something last time I checked a couple minutes ago. And are you already in that position where you feel like you're happy that it went up again, or do you feel like, oh man, I would have loved to acquire more Bitcoin at lower prices?
No regrets. I always buy it down, so I bought it all the way down. Bought a little bit of bought a couple Ethereum as well, but then tons and tons and tons of Sol. So lots of Sol, quite a bit of Bitcoin, and then just a little bit of ETH as well.
Yeah, Solana went down heavily as well. I think you could acquire it for around 70 or $65.
Yeah, you got in the
When
60s.
when it
Bought it in the
60, yeah, right.
60s, Ethereum
And
in the 1600s, Bitcoin at like 60, or even I think it dropped to like 59 for like half a second. So right around 60, basically by the time you pay, whatever markup there is in the market. So yeah, 60 for Bitcoin, 1600-ish for Ethereum, and then Solana was crazy on sale. So I think Solana has the greatest potential, so I spend the most money there. But always acquiring Bitcoin. I buy Bitcoin almost every day.
yeah, I think there was like a pretty big support at like the 60,000 area. As you mentioned, it went below for like a second or something, and then there was like a huge buy wall. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's crazy, right? Like, how do you behave now? I mean, I know that you usually, when things rally, you start, selling some of the stuff again because you expect, Solana to go down again. And obviously, that pump is totally based on the news we had with the deal between Iran and the United States. So do you see a chance that, waiting until 80 maybe, then selling again and then buying a bit lower again? Like that would be your strategy, right?
Sort of. When I do the swing trading, like when I buy it down and then sell and wait for a drop to rebuy, I usually want to get like 100% gains before I do that.
Oh,
Yeah, so if I buy at 60, I won't sell it until probably like 120 or at least close to that, because that guarantees me the greatest margin of safety. So I want to look for the potential for it to run before I just randomly sell. So it's not a small move. I think that there's potential for it to fall back over the summertime. Of course, we've got cash flows happening in the markets. I think largely due to the massive IPOs that have been coming down the line. So you saw liquidity leave the market basically because you had the SpaceX IPO, and I can't remember if Anthropic went. Let's see, when was the Anthropic IPO? I can't remember if it happened yet or not.
I think I just read about it. Yeah, Entropic.
Yeah, well, anyway, Anthropic is supposed to go. I forget the third one, but there's like $3 trillion IPOs or expected IPOs. The first one was SpaceX, of course, and it ended up being valued somewhere around 1.7 to 2 trillion in post IPO, depending on who you believe. So obviously capital flowed in that direction. I think there was something like $75 billion worth of shares that were available, and that was only represented like 4% of the total float. And most of the rest of it was insiders. So all the insiders made their money. I think something like 4,000 plus millionaires were created. And then, of course, those people can sell shares. I think they can start selling shares at 70 days post IPO. So we really won't know the value of that stock for, at least 6 months. But I expect it to come down. There'll be a buying opportunity there. And capital will continue to rotate. So as these billion-dollar IPOs, trillion-dollar IPOs come down the line, and these massive AI platforms, you're going to see liquidity leave crypto and go into stocks, and then back and forth until that IPO cycle is done.
Yeah, I think I just saw the chart from SpaceX, and it's crazy that it, still went up. I think 14% or something during the day, and yeah, it's crazy, right? Like if you look at it, if you look at this that way, and if you just, because obviously if Solana, kept falling down now, and it suddenly moved to the downside again, and it moved towards, I don't know, 50, maybe even into the 40s, who knows, you'd still accumulate, right? You just keep buying Solana, and once it multiplies or once it doubles, you start selling, and then you buy it cheaper again. And that actually sounds such a simple strategy, right? But history has showed that this worked all the time. So it's actually not that difficult to, as long as you stick to the big coins that actually have a future, right? If you feel like you can do that strategy with Polkadot, you might lose some money, I guess. But yeah, it's pretty cool. And I think since late 2025. That's what I'm trying to do as well. I'm just, waiting for pumps. Unfortunately, we haven't really seen a big pump since then, but that's my strategy as well. And just waiting for pumps until I swing trade everything and sell it, and then usually you have a correction, and then you can buy again. And that way, I think Mark from our community does that strategy as well, and is pretty successful. I think he made his way all the way up to 100 Solana, and as it's definitely a lot less stressful compared to trying to scan the charts every day and trying to see opportunities or find opportunities and invest in the next big thing, which might be another rug pull. I don't know. And definitely a good strategy to handle your cryptos. You're not in stocks right now, right?
No, definitely not.
Not at all. Yeah, probably better. All right. You mentioned you also bought some Ethereum, and we are in touch, or at least we are in touch with many collectors from the Meta Vixens, and they have announced that they will move from Polygon over to Ethereum. They will migrate, and they've gotten quite some attention for that. I've seen that they have that little trait, that little sign where they say that they move to Ethereum. I'm not sure if that is available for every single Meta Vixen. But yeah, Meta Vixens are moving to ETH, and I'm not sure if they disclosed a particular reason. I think they said that they see that obviously Ethereum provides a better foundation for long-term growth. And what do you think about that move?
It's very good. It's smart. Polygon has been useless for at least 2 years now. I don't know why anyone would stay on Polygon, especially if you're on Polygon and you can, literally easily move off an EVM onto like Ethereum. It just doesn't make sense to be there. So absolutely good on them for doing that. It's the right move, and I think everyone on Polygon should follow suit. Absolutely.
Yeah, indeed. And I feel like, given that I read one interesting sentence about on their post about their move to Ethereum, where they said we are going where the biggest history and quote unquote significance of NFTs lies, and that's Ethereum. And obviously that's true to some degree, right? Like, there are the biggest collections still. I think we spoke about blue chip NFTs on Ethereum for like some time ago on Spaces. How do you see like Solana come back to that big picture, to the eyes of those big holders, like CryptoPunk holders, Bored Ape and holders? Do you think there is still a project needed that can basically be the new flagship of Solana? I checked the DE Gods floor price yesterday, I think, and it was somewhere between 4 and 5, and I was quite surprised. I mean, okay, it's pretty expectable given what they do, and they don't really do anything, but it looks like there is a pretty big spot on Solana for another flagship project, bringing Solana NFTs back, and bigger eyes to Solana. And obviously the infrastructure is there, right? Like, we have such a good infrastructure on Solana, so many opportunities. Why do you think, like, is it only the first mover advantage for projects to still release on ETH?
That's exactly it. First mover advantage. First smart contract platform. There's nothing special about Ethereum at all. At the end of the day, aside from being first, that's what they've done best. And, that counts. The market matters. Like, first mover advantage is very, very real, and you cannot underestimate it. And when you go and you operate on, and you look at different platforms and what their use cases are, speed, application availability, this sort of thing. Like, if you compare the speeds on Solana to the speeds on ETH, they're not even close. And, you can look at that and you can say, okay, well, why would anyone build on ETH? And the answer is going to be because that's where the community of developers for blockchain began. That's where it started. It's the OG. It has, I think, a 6-year, 7-year head start on like its nearest competitor, which I would call Solana. And that's not going to go away anytime soon. So it doesn't really matter in the short run what happens, but what matters over time is going to be people's perception as new people come into the market, right? And Ethereum was first on the scene for basically for NFTs with CryptoPunks. And they were also first used in like higher end auction houses, like your Christie's and such, right? So when you go to these auction houses and you're looking on the digital side of things, they're using Ethereum to base all of their blockchain transactions on, right? So what Solana would have to do is create inroads into some of the major auction houses, into some of the higher brow collections and what's going on there. And if you look at what's happening right now in Ethereum, what you're seeing right now with the more expensive collections, like your Bored Apes and this sort of thing, is you've got like a couple key holders who've been making moves around the artwork. Whether the ideas are good or not, what's been happening is people with money and influence have been pushing those projects forward. And when you have that and you have the status associated with it, people just follow suit because most people cannot associate themselves with those higher brow projects. Either they're priced out or they were too late or whatever the case may be. So they want to try to grasp onto and follow what other people are doing to whatever degree they can. So what I've seen on ETH is like right now, ETH is leading with the degen stuff, which has been really interesting to see because Solana led with the meme coin degen nonsense. And now ETH is leading with the degen stuff back in on the Ethereum side, where people who were, during the deepest parts of the bear, we're talking about artwork, are now talking about floor prices and trading and this and that and the other thing. And they're giving the language around what we're going to build, what we're going to do, what we're gonna, which is all the same stuff we saw with the 2021, 2022 run up when Solana was doing all the degen nonsense. What I've seen is a bit of a shift. Now Solana's focused on building in business and building applications and developing a user base that is hell-bent on like faster, cheaper, better. Whereas ETH is kind of holding on to that status play that they've used and been able to leverage in the past. So it's going to be really interesting to see. And specifically in the MetaVixens world and the Bored Ape world, this was actually pretty predictable if you followed the account from Adam Weitzman, because he's like a massive holder in BAYC, like massive holder. He holds hundreds and hundreds of pieces and continues to acquire, right? So when he came back into the market and announced that he was looking for artwork, he basically was scouting, I think, for BAYC. And this is what I understand based on what little bit I have gleaned from the public information. So those projects that he asked to be shown, people obviously posted all their stuff. He picked a few. MetaVixens was one. There were quite a few others. He's been associated with Normies and quite a few others as well. But what he's actually doing is he's building IP that can support BAYC, which is like his biggest holding. And this is pretty obvious. So he asked for projects that have decent communities. He's started reaching out to founders, and he's made this information public. So a few weeks or maybe a month or so ago, he made it public that he had spoken with Anna from MetaVixens, who's the creator of MetaVixens. And it was pretty obvious at that point that there was going to be a discussion about bringing that IP onto ETH and then into the BAYC universe, because you have to realize the only thing Bored Apes are bringing to the table, aside from status, is a metaverse. And so the more IP you can bring into your metaverse, the more valuable it's going to be, right? This is again, one of those user-to-user types things, right? Where if 2 people have a fax machine, nobody cares. But if 1,000 people have a fax machine, all of a sudden faxing is legitimate. Same thing with phones and computers. If 2 people have a computer, big deal. But if 1 million people have a computer, then they can communicate. Okay, cool. Now we've got a network effect. The same thing is happening in metaverses. And if you have the support and the money to throw at a metaverse, you have to bring more people in. You have to create a network effect, or else it's going to fail. So the ability to sell virtual real estate, to sell virtual ads, to sell virtual products to virtual people in virtual worlds depends on those metaverses being used. And so I would not be surprised to see MetaVixens in the BAYC metaverse, normies in there, reorder in there, everything that Weitzman has associated himself with. I would look for it showing up in the BAYC world, because again, he's not a dumb guy. He's built a huge business, okay? And he's going to defend his positions in those primary businesses. The way that you do that is you bring competitors, or what could potentially be competitors, you bring them into your universe and make them collaborators. And that's really what's happening with MetaVixens. So ETH is going to continue to have that spotlight as long as you have like massive buys and headlines being caught by people like Adam, who are helping push BAYC, and then of course other projects that they're associated with. And I don't expect that to change. So in order for Solana to make up ground, Solana has to create similar relationships. That's the only way that happens. And so, kind of what we're doing in the space of acquiring IP and bringing it under one umbrella for proper licensure and proper usage in the future, all it takes is for a few projects to do that and do that well, for Solana to start making leaps on the upper echelon artwork side. So, that's kind of my take on it. And, it's an uphill battle. But again, the ground that Solana has made up on the programming side, being good for businesses, being good for adoption, stable tokens, and all of the rest of it from the agent side on down, there's no reason why Solana can't catch up with ETH on the artwork side. But it is going to take status, and it is going to take influence. And these things can't be ignored. It's just part of it. So I wouldn't expect, what you're seeing in like Adam Weitzman's universe to slow down, because again, as a businessman, and I would do the same thing. I'm not faulting him. I would do the exact same thing. I would bring every bit of IP I possibly could into my universe that could help my primary investment. And that's exactly what he's doing.
Well, is that publicly disclosed, or is, because I think I just saw a post from a Bored Ape Yacht Club member who made, he has a mutant ape, and he was like, I have a mutant ape yacht club. I have a mutant ape and thought it would be enough. Now I need a Bored Ape. And then he posted, have you seen the MetaVixens? Spoiler alert, you'll probably need one too. They are migrating to ETH. And yeah, that kind of hints at, what's going to happen and to what you just described. But I was just wondering if, those information are public and people are expecting that, or is that your personal speculation now?
Well, it's both. Enough of it is public for you to make an informed decision. Like, again, this isn't rocket science, and people try to make like it's witchcraft. And, Adam has telegraphed his plays, which has really been kind of interesting to watch, because I don't think people pay attention. I really don't think people have paid attention. So, reaching out to a founder and posting that you've publicly spoken to that person, why else would you have a conversation with that person if not to negotiate some form of collaboration? It only makes sense.
Yeah.
Traveling to Europe to have dinner with and interactions with the normies people, right? Why would you post that if you didn't have plans for collaboration, right? Like everything is completely lining up to support BAYC. Again, that's his primary investment. That's where a lot of his money is tied up. So it only makes sense for him to bring in what potentially could be competing communities and have them unite under one umbrella. And again, the more they bring into the BAYC metaverse, the better. It just makes sense. And this is true of if you look at Elon, he's doing the same thing, right? A lot of people think that like Tesla exists, to be some auto manufacturing company, when the truth is like Tesla exists because in order to have civilizations on other planets, you have to have battery technologies and transportation that actually works and it's transportable. Like if you look at the Cybertruck and you look at its panels, like literally every panel on it is flat. Well, why is that? Well, if I want to ship a Cybertruck to the moon and then ultimately to Mars, isn't it best to be able to ship it flat and then like construct it on site with just flat panels? Mm-hmm. This stuff isn't hard. You just look at the way people are vertically integrating in business and you can see where they're going. And so like what Adam's doing with BAYC we're doing with GoodFellas on a smaller scale by bringing other people's IP into our universe, either through collection acquisition or through the artist incubator. It's the same idea. It's accumulate as much IP that you can control or at least can collaborate with, and then ultimately leverage into the future to the benefit of all, right? Like every artist wants to be featured in as many places as possible. Every collector wants high quality goods. Every founder wants to be successful. Like it's win-win-win all the way around. And this is how real business is done. So it only makes sense if you just look at the clues.
Yeah, absolutely. I was wondering, like when it comes to communities on both chains, like let's say if Pudgy Penguins seriously considered migrating to Solana for the typical reasons, lower transaction costs, greater scalability, and stronger adoption potential, do you think holders would abandon the project because they're from Ethereum?
Some would, for sure. Yeah. I mean, there's no shortage of snobbery in ETH. And, to be honest with you, we've got some of that developing in Solana. Like there's people who are like Solana, Solana, Solana. I mean, there are people who are just complete snobs in whatever it is that they collect and whatever it is that they do, and they're not going to shift no matter what. So yeah, I mean, anytime you do that, you're going to lose some people and gain others. And we saw this with the DeGods experiment when they shifted from Solana to ETH, right? Some of the people did not migrate. Quite a few of the people stayed on Solana because that was their choice. And then when they went to ETH, they acquired a few users. And then some people moved back to Solana because they had a bridge that you could take your pieces both ways, right? So ultimately, the snobbery, around we're better than you, we hold more status than you, blah, blah, blah. As long as this tribalism type stuff exists, you're going to have people who refuse to do certain things based on X, right? And, I mean, I'm guilty of it too. Like I'm not buying anything on Polygon in most cases, unless it's someone I really, have an affinity for and someone I really, know and love. I'm not going to waste time with a clunky ETH wallet to do some clunky transaction on some clunky chain that is really going away. I'm just not doing it. I'm just not going to do it, So, I mean, at the end of the day, these are real considerations and there's real sunk costs, both psychologically and monetarily, that people are going to have to overcome. And so for me, the answer isn't what's happening on chain now. The answer is what happens as like the average person comes into the marketplace. And so this is the person that I want to talk to. I'm not going to try to convince like an ETH maxi to buy a Solana NFT any more than I would try to convince an Ordinals maxi to buy an ETH NFT. It makes no sense. It's like trying to sell steak to a vegan. It doesn't make any sense. Don't worry about it. There's plenty of people in the world. Go find your person wherever your person is. Now, I mean, these captive audiences don't necessarily mean that you're going to be successful. Your collaborations don't necessarily mean that you're going to be successful. There's tons of risks in building software, whether it's a metaverse or the next CMS. It doesn't really matter. There's tons and tons of risk, but it helps solidify your position. And so, at the end of the day, ultimately, as the UIs get better and more people come on and start using this stuff and there's more incentive to build better UI, the underlying technology won't matter so much. Probably if you have a successful metaverse, it'll probably integrate with pretty much any of the major chains. And so it won't really matter. But right now, the tribalism and the status does matter, and it has to be factored in, like any long-term decision making. So that's kind of how I see it. And this is the reason that we want to continue to acquire IP and build value into it, because ultimately that's what is going to drive value to the holders. And that's what the holders and the collectors want. And I shouldn't even use the word holder, because holders are really degens. They're just waiting for their number to sell. Collectors are not the same. Collectors are holding that shit no matter what. So like, because we cater to collectors and that's who we focus on, it's a little bit different for us. But for projects who are concerned about floor prices and trading volume and all this nonsense, then, it's a different story. You need the status, you need the headlines, you need all that kind of stuff. Whereas a slow growth project for like a specific targeted market is not necessarily going to require the same types of inputs or the same types of I guess you'd say headlines, but it does require the same relationships, and it does require innovation, and it does require proper marketing and communication. And that's really where like a project like ours and others, we need to really hone in and get really good at that stuff. And this is, obviously what we were talking about earlier at our meeting, like really honing in on the messaging and making sure that what we're putting out is of high value, because ultimately that's really where attention and eyeballs go. Once all the dust settles and the degen nonsense falls away and blah, 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 you're left with a group of people who either value what you've created or don't. Traders are going to come and go. It's the people who interact and use it that matter. And so this is why the collaboration piece, I think, is important. And I feel like if you look at, just the activity on Weitzman's timeline, he's literally telegraphing what he's doing. And he's, having a personal relationship with the founders at BAYC and being the largest investor or one of the largest investors, it's pretty obvious that he's telegraphing what he's doing. So I think it's super smart. And I mean, like I said earlier, I would do the exact same thing. Like, you really want to pull in everybody that you possibly can and talk about collaboration, which is exactly what he's been doing. And I think you're going to see more of these announcements, to be honest with you.
When you started speaking about ETH and Solana and their different kind of communities, I remember how back in the days some NFT projects suddenly started going multi-chain and try to tap into collector bases across different chains, and most of them obviously failed miserably. Do you think that's because people on ETH and Solana have their own collector bases? Because let's be honest, I think most collectors in our community are collecting. Let me see if it's bullshit or not. But I think most are only collecting NFTs on Solana for us, right? I think most of them are not active on Solana, other than GoodFellas. So that's quite a commitment from people, right?
I can't speak to that. I don't think that's true. There's people who are holding from all different chains.
You don't think that's true? I'm not sure.
No, not at all. I mean, if you look at the wallets, you can see.
I was just because I can't really think of any other big project on Solana that people are actively collecting. Maybe I'm wrong right now. I'm not sure, but let's see what other, because whatever. Like, it's interesting because I had that feeling that many times collectors came into our project. They were like, I'm not really usually collecting on Solana. So they needed some guidance and people who helped them, with what's the best wallet and how does Magic Eden work. And that was really cool to see that the way we designed that project and we did, build that whole ecosystem, that, still people from other chains came to Solana and felt like, okay, that's a project I need to acquire and be part of because they do good stuff.
Yeah.
As we, just basically elaborated that usually people stick to their own chains, right? And people, whenever someone is on ETH or on Polygon, they usually don't look over to other chains. And we made many people look onto Solana, and I think that's quite an achievement.
Yeah, I mean, there's multiple aspects to what you're talking about. There have been a lot of new people come in who aren't necessarily familiar with Solana, but the base, the original buyers of our collection mostly came from Solana. And so, when you look back at where we were to where we are, I mean, our whole thing appeals to people across blockchains. Like, we're not talking about, anything other than providing quality experiences to collectors. And so if you're a collector and you're looking for a place where you can feel safe and secure and know that you own your IP and know that the Discord's not going to disappear on Monday and that you can get in touch with the founders and all the rest of it, then that's the place that me as a collector, I would want to be. So whether it's Ethereum or Solana, makes no difference, or if it's ordinals, it doesn't make any difference to me. What matters to me is that the place, that the environment that I've chosen to partake and participate in is actually one that's long-standing, right? And that sort of supersedes the act of like being, like a chain maxi. So and two, like when we're talking about what we're putting out, we're primarily focused on collectors and art. And this We've brought in some people who collected from Tezos and brought in some people who collected from Ethereum and all the rest of it, again, focused on like the idea that we're not here to like create trading volume and worry about floor prices. We're here to give you beautiful things. And that transcends chain. So what we're doing is a lot different from what most people are doing. You never hear us talk about floor prices or trading volume. Someone actually posted on my timeline the other day. I posted a piece, I think it was from the Sirens, and they were like, someone posted, "Oh, what's the floor price?" And I was like, Jesus Christ. So I respond, I'm like, hopefully there isn't one, because if there's a floor price, we failed. We're looking for collectors, not degens and traders, right? And the guy was like, oh, thumbs up, man. Yeah, like I get it, right? Like he understood the difference. And I think more people who collect art understand the difference. Like, I don't want a floor price because that means somebody's selling something. I want to see nothing for sale. I want to see zero trading volume. And I want to see that for the foreseeable future until the project gets large enough to where it actually warrants caring about those things, right? So in a slow growth phase in the beginning, those things are not good for you. And I think a lot of people miss this because they're trying to be bored apes. And, they're trying to look at their trading volume as some form of status symbol rather than a lack of trading volume should really be your status symbol if you're selling art and catering to collectors. And this is the thing that people miss, And it's funny too. It's kind of funny to watch because you mentioned Vixens earlier. And I love those guys. I love what Anna's done. And I love anyone who's putting in the work. So nothing that I say is against her or anyone in the community. But, there are several people from Vixens who always used to talk shit about like rich people. And I popped into a couple of spaces and I don't remember the names or whatever, but it doesn't really matter. But there, there's rich people this and we never get recognized that. And, we're for everybody and, artwork first. And the minute that Weitzman buys a piece, it's like, oh, billionaires are cool. Look who bought our stuff. And look where we're going. And, if you don't buy, you're not going to be able to buy once we switch chains. So like the messaging completely shifted, right? So it's kind of funny. Like, do we hate billionaires and money people, or do we like billionaires and status? Like, what are we doing here? So it's really funny to watch how people's minds shift when like money enters the equation. And, this isn't a knock against them. Like anyone would do this. Like it's just natural, normal, human, monkey, primate behavior, right? Look at us. Look how great we're doing. A rich guy bought our shit, And it's just funny because like when you see people go from one side of the spectrum to the other, it really tells you what they actually value, right? And so when you find out what people actually value, and it shows up in the work and in the wording, then what it tells you is that the messaging up to that point wasn't legitimate. It wasn't authentic. And that's the problem with a lot of that type of stuff. So, and I'm not picking on them. Like most people do this, and I'm sure I've done it. Like we're all guilty of doing hypocritical stuff. But just like if you watch how people behave around status or around money or, I saw this with my uncle, super rich dude, like people would just be different people around him, than they were behind his back. Mm-hmm. And so it's really strange to see, but at the same time, very expected. And, I hope, the move goes well, and I hope Adam continues to acquire pieces. I think he has a really cool background. At one point, he was in the art world and then got into the steel business. And he posted one of his posts was really cool. He was talking about picking up a space where he was going to showcase art and artists. And that's the type of people we need in the space, right? Like people who really care about beautiful things and like showcasing beautiful work. And so I would expect more people like him to come into the space. You'll see, some person come into the space who is similar to that, who has similar pull and similar status, and you'll see some random chain like fly up the chart, right? It's going to happen. Mm-hmm. It'll probably happen for Solana too. Like somebody will come in and do something similar, and then Solana will fly up the chart and Solana projects, and it's going to continue to happen as adoption continues to happen. So when people like him come in, we need to celebrate that. Like it's a win for the space. not just for Bored Apes. It's a win for everybody. And we want more and more and more of that. At least I do, because I mean, there's plenty to go around. There's no shortage of shit in the world for people to enjoy, collect, and spend time with. And so like, I think the messaging that I want to put out around adoption is going to center around, hey, the more people that we can bring in who have resources to support different projects, regardless of the project, regardless of the chain. We want those people because NFTs have more use cases than blockchains. Remember, the blockchain is just a database. The NFT is the actual, like where the rubber meets the road in terms of tokenization. And those acts of tokenization, we haven't even scratched the surface of yet. So the more projects that can be successful, the more people who can come in and support them, the better we all are. And that's really the attitude that we need to have. And so like my attitude toward people with money is, hey, come on in. We love you. Come on in. My attitude toward people without money, hey, come in and buy what you can afford. This is going to be a good thing in the long run. And for everybody in the middle, hey, come on in, join us. This is a good place to be, and there's lots of opportunity. So, that's just kind of my take on it. But it's and I'm just pointing this out to just simply say that, like we've talked about all along, like human psychology has not changed for thousands of years, and it's not going to change anytime soon. So from a marketing perspective, from a sales perspective, from a collection perspective, like your language needs to be authentic to the thing that you want to create, and you'll have a greater chance of attracting those types of people.
That's very true. But I mean, to be completely honest, if Elon Musk bought a GoodFella tomorrow, there wouldn't be anything else I'd speak about. So I would.
That's what I'm saying.
Price,
that's exactly my point.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, no one would shut up about it, and so that's what I'm saying. Like we would all capitalize on that, right? And that's the thing. Yeah. So yeah, absolutely, 100%. And my point is, we need more people like that in the space. We need more people to come in with resources.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. All right, let's jump a little bit into the GoodFellas. And we've spoken about the updates you've made on the Blocks app. And there's actually no day passing without me jumping on the Blocks app and looking at my NFTs. It's pretty cool that you added the rectangular shape. That's actually pretty cool because I don't know, I feel like it's aesthetic to some degree. Any more updates for the Blocks app planned? I feel like you can do everything you want by now. Like you can add images from the World Wide Web. There is actually not much you can do, right?
Well, I mean, that remains to be seen, I guess.
Like in terms of updates?
In terms of updates, I mean, there's always something to do, I guess you could say. But in terms of functionality, I mean, there comes a point where too much becomes an issue. So ultimately we want to turn that into a mobile app. So, really paring it down to its core functions is kind of the challenge. So, I mean, I might get another request from Mark where he has another good idea, and it's like, okay, we'll need to incorporate that good idea. But for now, like the big thing is just making sure that the displays work properly. I know there were some issues with some pieces not loading, and it comes down to some of the transactions aren't actually like finalized in a proper way. So going in and just making sure those are handled properly and that the speed and the cache is working correctly. That's good. And then ultimately we want to add features where like bosses can add in specific collections and, have more flexibility than like your average person. And then of course, ultimately the apps need to be like on-chain apps rather than JavaScript-based apps that touch the chain. And so when we get to that point, like it'll be a marketable app where we'll take a transaction fee on some of that stuff and make it something that we can monetize, right? But that comes from creating a custom on-chain program. So in terms of updates, there's quite a few things that we can do from a UI standpoint to make it more beautiful, more usable. There's some functionality that I'd like to add in terms of new collections and like saving things for like specific wallets and bosses, but it's largely there. And then when it goes to mobile, when the mobile app comes down the line, everything will need to be streamlined and like really well located. So probably the biggest updates going forward will be UI based, because like in the the way it's set up right now, the UI is good for desktop, but not good for mobile. And so obviously the mobile app will be the answer to that, but going between those two things should look similar. And so testing, where the functionality needs to sit and how the pages need to look so that they act and perform in similar fashion will be a challenge as well. So no shortage of stuff to do, but
yeah, my only request would have been to be able to basically put gallery addresses in there and see your gallery displayed. That would be pretty cool. And I was wondering if I would like to see like the design of the website updated and have a little more, I don't know, colors. But on the other hand, I like that simple black as well, so I can't really decide what I'd like to see. But yeah, I mean, it's pretty cool that it's unified, like pinstripe and jumper and blocks all look like they belong together. That's definitely really, really good.
yeah, and that's by design as well. So, ultimately when things go mobile or go to mobile, we'll want to make sure that the look and feel is translated as well. And before that happens, the look and feel of the desktop side needs to be improved. I mean, this is kind of like I wouldn't say it's a first pass, but it's an early pass in terms of making something just look nice and clean, but it can be even cleaner and more beautiful. And of course, with a focus on the collectors having a good experience, that's something that I'll definitely be focused on creating for them. And of course, taking more feedback. I'm hoping as more and more people use it, hopefully they send me more and more feedback on what they'd like to see. And even to the point of, hey, can you locate this in a different place or put this control in a different place? And that'll help, ultimately nail down the final design. But if we can just make it super intuitive, super clean, there's a couple things I already know that I want to do for Pinstripe, for example. I want to make sure that instead of having to click one of the controls to upload the image, I'd rather just have drop zones where you can just drag and drop the image onto the screen. Little stuff like that. Same thing with blocks. There's some controls in there that I want to change the way they look and clean them up a little bit more. So, I mean, the truth is you can just do that stuff forever because some of it's personal preference and some of it is actual, hey, this would work better if it was over there or looked a different color or whatever the case may be. But yeah, I mean, ultimately unifying all that stuff is a challenge, and then translating it to a mobile, something like blocks to mobile is going to be a real challenge because do you really want a 10 by 10 grid on your mobile phone? You probably can't see it very well, right? So probably wouldn't be functional to have a 10 by 10 grid visible on your mobile phone.
Yeah, that's true. Absolutely. But yeah, I still feel like the UI on the desktop is already pretty good. There's not really much you can do to improve the UI because everything is very smooth, and at least the images right now they load pretty quick. And I haven't even tried on mobile yet, but I'm having to check that out as well. So it's not optimized yet, you said. I think I did try Pinstripe on my phone, and that actually worked pretty good.
Yeah, Pinstripe's a different animal, though. I mean, you're just dealing with one or two images, so but blocks, I mean, if you're pulling up 100 images on your phone screen, it's kind of 10 by 10 grid on my phone, that takes talent, man. Probably more like a 3 by 6 or, like a 2 by 10 or something like that, right? So you can actually see the images. But yeah, no, I hear what you're saying.
Yeah. All right. What else do we got? So, guys, definitely keep an eye out for updates for the Artist Incubator. We haven't really set a date yet. Or as you guys know, we are striving to deliver the highest quality possible. And I think I haven't rejected as many pieces as I did over the last few weeks from artists ever. So as I said, we're trying to provide the highest level of quality, and that's why we haven't really set a date for the Artist Incubator yet, because we are aiming to have the art be satisfied with the art and feel like it gets to the, or at least it matches the quality we have in the gallery right now. And on top of that, we are having spaces on Friday, and I did create the spaces link just today. So if you want, go to the Discord, check out the pub, or go to the X handle and bookmark the space. We are going to jump into the topics mentioned. Let me just check. So we will talk about NFTs as infrastructure. We kind of touched on that today as well already, but we want to explore what you can do with NFTs and how they can be more than just collectibles. We talked about that plenty of times already, but I feel like we've never really nailed it down. And I'd like to also explore how a collection should be designed, because what I recently saw with many mints happening is that many of the latest projects are trying to do things different when they mint pieces. For example, like, do you remember when we had the Sirens mint and we had that placeholder piece before we revealed the original art?
Yep, sure do.
Yeah, and this is actually something many projects seem to be doing right now again, like having placeholder pieces and reveal them later. And um, like I'd actually like to know if that's something collectors like or not, because when I thought about that and I thought about minting a collection, like, would you do that again? Did you feel like that was a good experience?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, you're talking about the Stargaze mint, right? So, like at the end of the day, it was
Exactly, yeah.
yeah, of course. I mean, it was an attempt to do something different, and Stargaze was advertising itself as like an artwork first type situation. So, again, like I saw someone post the other day, it just kind of pissed me off. It was like, oh, if you're not drawing or like putting out a visual, it's not art, And I just read that. I was like, you are one dumb motherfucker. Like, you are like totally ignorant to what art actually is. Like, art is an expression of soul. And, there's a lot of truth in that. So for me, like when I do an experience, when I create something for someone, whether it's a piece of art or it's like in the case of the Stargaze drop, like meant to be an experience that someone can remember, that is art. And it should be considered as such. In the same way that, the guy who mows your lawn and like puts stripes in the grass, perfect stripes in the grass, is an artist. Like that guy cares about what he's doing. He's doing like grass cutting in an artful way. And so, art is anything done well. And being that we were going to this place where art was supposed to be featured, the idea was to create an experience that would be artful. And that was to give people mint passes that they could actually collect. So it was like, in a way, it was like a mint pass, but not really. It was a piece of art. And so like, most people who do mint passes just do like a square ticket with like some words on it. I'm like, well, that sucks. Like if you're going to go through the time and torture of creating a bunch of NFTs that people are going to hold forever, why wouldn't you actually just put something artful on the fucking ticket? It doesn't make any sense not to, It's like, it's funny because like things that I think are obvious, people look at me and they're like, well, I never thought about that. And I'm like, well, maybe I'm just an idiot for thinking about it, or maybe I'm trying to do too much, or, maybe I'm just thinking about it too much. I don't know what it is, but like when things like that happen, I'm just blown away that people are surprised by it, because I feel like as a service provider, and in GoodFellas, that's what we're doing in terms of providing a place for collectors to be and for them to collect beautiful things. Like as a service provider, don't I really want the people that I associate with to have good experiences? And if I have the ability to create a good experience, wouldn't I create a good experience? Like I think that if you're not thinking on that wavelength, you're just not in founder mode, because like it's so difficult to sell anything anyway in any market that like you wouldn't give yourself every possible advantage when you have an opportunity to do so. Like why cripple yourself in this particular case with a mint pass that just looks like a ticket, like an old school movie ticket or something? Why not make it beautiful? And so that's the only thinking behind it. And I could totally see doing something like that again. But again, I would probably want to do it in a similar way where it was just, like you got a piece of art that you could hold forever, or it was some sort of meaningful thing, right? Not just like a picture of a ticket that you wouldn't think twice about keeping,
Yeah, I think the reason for that is that for most of the times this has been done in the NFT world, people didn't really pay attention to that and did like an artful piece. And people usually look at what's been done so far and just repeat that shit over and over again. And yeah, I think we even had like 2 or 3 pieces, right, as placeholders. I remember back then the piece was actually pretty beautiful. That was like one Princess Leia
3 of
piece,
them. Yeah,
and
there were 3
I love
pieces.
that. Yeah, 3 of them. Yeah, right. And yeah, different colors, right? But yeah, it was such a great piece, right? And I remember that people loved it. I think it was even like traded, and people wanted to have all 3 different versions. And yeah, that was a great idea, and I think that definitely made that drop a little special, and I'd love to see that in the future again. But yeah, let's explore that on Friday Spaces. How should you design your NFT collection? And yeah, that being said, that was it for today, and I'd like to wish everyone a great week ahead. I hope you guys will be with us on Friday Spaces. And Jason, any final words from you?
Nope, that's it, man. Just everybody have a great week. Appreciate the conversation. Lots of good stuff today, and yeah, a long way to go. So let's get after it.
Bye, everyone.